the title?
Please call Pilot, where technology meets stupidity. Oh.
And then the next one?
Technology, though admittedly complex, is often falsely
Equated.
equated
Mm-hmm.
with intelligence. No, well, yeah. These columns attempt to illustrate the distinction.
These columns.
These columns.
And then can you read the title of the actual article?
An interactive guide to ambiguous grammar.
Okay, good. And let's have Ken. Can you read the first paragraph?
Okay. Depending on whom you ask, the use of the active voice over the passive voice is arguably the most fundamental writer's maxim, thought to lend weight, truth, and power to declarative statements. This absolutist view is flawed, however, because language is an art of nuance. From time to time, writers may well find illustrative value in the lightest of phrases, sentences so weightless and fiddly that they scarcely even seem to exist at all. These can convey detail well beyond the crude thrust of the hulking active voice, and we used strictly as ornamentation. They needn't actually convey anything at all. As,
Okay.
as
Let's
okay,
stop there. Can you repeat feathery?
feathery,
Feathery, feathery,
feathery,
feathery, feathery.
feathery,
Good. And scarcely.
scarcely.
And then this sentence, this absolutist view is flawed, however, because language is an art of nuance.
This absolutist view is flawed, however, because language is an art of nuance.
Yeah, because
And
language, yeah.
mhm.
Good. Okay. And I
uh,
guess we're good. Go
and
ahead.
what is the difference between needn't and don't need?
Doesn't need. It's the
I
same
don't
thing.
same thing.
Yeah. So it
But
needn't, it doesn't need to.
maybe need not can be used academic writing, so maybe doesn't need more frequently used in my impression.
Doesn't need is much more frequently used. Needn't
Yeah.
makes you sound pretentious. So it makes you sound like. So this is the way that he's writing this is he's like making himself sound very
Intelligent.
kind of,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just like it's very verbose. So he's like writing a lot about. I mean, so he's going to be writing about the passive voice.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just it needn't be. It just sounds like kind of British and I don't know, yeah,
British like.
intellectual maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more
Yes.
like British and kind of like semi-intellectual. Hulking is really big and like strong, kind of brute. Do you get that? So if you think of the Hulk, that's where we get hulking. Well, that's where the Hulk comes from. It's from hulking, not the other way around. But yeah, Bruno, welcome to class. How's it going?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. And yeah, welcome to class. So we are going to be reading about the passive voice. This is a difficult article, so if you have any questions, just be sure to ask. So Julieta, can you read the next little paragraph?
Yes. As a thought experiment, let's examine in extremely close detail a set of interactive changes that can be made to a single simple grammatical structure. turning it from a statement taken at face value into one loaded with unrealized implication. This makes for rich writing which rewards or even demands close scrutiny. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
Good. Can you repeat iterative?
Iterative.
Good. So iterative changes is like active changes. So active and repetitive changes. So we're going to be repeating changes to a symbol, grammatical structure. Does anybody have any questions on this part?
The last sentence.
This makes for rich writing which rewards or even demands close scrutiny. And then the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Is that the question? Which one?
Yes, the previous one. This makes for rich writing.
Okay, so he's saying that the passive voice rewards people who look at it closely and even demands people look at it closely. And be aware, this is all a joke. So let's have
rewards with what? With
you understanding what they're trying to say. So like the reward of the writing is that you understand it. Yeah, so if you look at it closely, you're rewarded with understanding. But, you know, you have to look at it really closely to even understand it. So it demands it more so. And that's all. Does that make sense? Okay. And let's have Bruno. Can you read the next part?
Okay. The most fundamental feature of the passive voice is the conversion of the object into the subject by way of a stative verb. This often requires complete structural inversion of the sentence since the two clauses are changed position, but it allows two rows of the nouns to shift, bringing the secondary participant into the foreground.
And so can you read the first one and then how it changes? So this is the first one. Well, so I guess read this one?
The first phrase?
So read this.
Okay. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
And then in the passive voice, it is, hold on, the lazy dog is jumped over by the quick brown fox. So can you try to read that one really quickly?
The lazy dog is jumped over by the quick brown fox.
Good. Okay. So passive voice. Any questions here? Okay. So a structural inversion, it's like the structure of the sentence is flipping around. The clauses, like the two parts of the sentence, are changing positions. And then we have the object becoming taking the place of the subject, kind of. So the subject is still the fox, and the object is the brown dog, but we switch. So hopefully that makes sense. That's all that it's saying. Ken, can you read the next part?
Okay. It's also helpful to switch to past tense. This very slight change often lessens the impact of statement. If the action being described happened at some point in the distant past, it is no longer an immediate concern. So other parts of the sentence can be more easily emphasized instead. The lazy dog was jumped over by the quick brown fox.
Good. Okay. Any questions here?
Maybe these sentences are slightly different meaning or nuance. That article is explained.
So he's making fun of people who write in the passive voice is what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah, so the article is just taking a sentence that should be simple, and they're like making a funny explanation of why you would use the passive voice. And it's like, so it's like you can use the passive voice to not say anything. So like when you make a sentence that says nothing. Going back a little bit, sorry. At the end it'll just be nothing. But Bruno, I forgot to get a couple words. Can you repeat feature?
Feature.
And conversion.
Conversion.
Structural.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Structural.
Structure.
And clauses.
Clauses.
Good. Okay. And let's have Giulietta, can you read the next part?
Well, remove definite articles whenever possible, replacing them with the indefinite.
Good.
This diffuses the verb. In this form, the notion that any actor may have performed the action is a logical conclusion. The exact reference can still be intuited upon closer reading. A lazy dog was jumped over by a quick brown fox.
Good. Nice job with intuited. I lost you a little bit in this part, but it's okay. Good job. Indefinites, diffuses. Nice. Questions here? All right, no questions. Let's have Bruno. Can you read this next part?
Okay. The verb is still concrete, but it shouldn't be. In fact, the verb can be removed completely. Convert it into a present participle adjective, and then use that participle as a modifier for a broad, general-purpose noun. In this example, we will use in accident to at least acknowledge that the events took place along a common timeline. But even that much is still an unnecessary concession to specificity.
Specificity.
Specificity. I don't know.
Specificity. Specificity.
Specificity.
Good.
We could just as easily substitute thing, which is so broad that unpacked, it will command the reader's complete attention.
Okay. Good. So can you also repeat concrete?
Concrete.
Yeah, concrete and completely.
Completely.
Good. And incident.
Instant.
Nice. Okay. And questions here. So that's gonna be kind of changing was jumped over, was involved in a jumping incident. So that changes was jumped over to was involved in a jumping incident. Yeah. Does that make sense? It's a little bit tricky. We're talking a lot about grammar. Any questions here? All right, Ken, can you read the next part? Oh, go ahead, Ken. What's up?
Yeah. So maybe active voice is much more understandable, easier to
Yes.
understand. Okay.
I mean, you should always use the active voice. You shouldn't use the passive voice. You'll understand at the end what they're talking about. But yeah, can you read the next part?
Okay. In addition, There is still a distinction between the subject and the object which can be further erased. Both subject and object were involved in the proceedings simply because both are present in the sentence. That new verb can apply to both nouns, making them equal and indistinguishable partners.
Partners. And can you read the next sentence?
Okay. A lazy dog was involved in a
Was involved in a jumping incident.
Jumping incident with a quick brown fox.
Good. Okay. And so again, now we have two nouns. They're both equally involved in the incident. There's something like a verb. It's really, really passive. We've got not much happening that we can really define. Giulietta, can you read the next part?
The adjective can be made bigger still simply by implying that it is a class of modifier rather than the specific modifier itself. That is, an apple can itself be fairly called apple-related, and a banana is itself also truly banana-related. So this adjective modifier can likely be fairly described as adjective modifier related. A grammatical identity theorem is, if you will. A lazy dog was involved in a jumping incident, maybe? Related incident with a quick brown fox.
Good. So we're modifying the adjective and saying it's like a jumping related incident. So yeah, it's just really like, what is a jumping related incident? Does that make sense to everybody? You know, banana is banana related. Okay. And any questions here? All right. Let's go. Bruno, can you read the next part?
Further, in pursuit of turning the two operators into equal partners, we are now in a position to alter the broader structure of the sentence to present them alongside one another. This removes the last vestiges of the initial phrasing, in which an object was being operated upon by the subject. Both nouns are now equally implicated, based on their position in the sentence. A lazy dog was in... Sorry.
Okay. So instead of saying that, we say a lazy dog and a quick brown fox are both involved in a jumping related incident. So yeah,
Okay.
now they are both there. There's no inequality between with them. So can you repeat likewise?
Likewise,
Operators?
operators,
Operators. Like an aw. Operators.
operators,
Present.
present,
And vestiges. Vestiges.
vestiges,
Yeah, the last vestiges of the initial phrasing. So it's like the last traces or the last remnants, whatever remained of the initial phrasing. And I like how he uses the passive voice here. But good. Any questions here? Okay. All right. And Ken, can you read the next part?
The word horse is now redundant here, so it can be removed in the interest of concision. The
Okay.
participation of both parties in the action is logically implied simply by their presence, so it does not need to be explicitly stated to the reader. Lazy Dog and Quick Brown Fox were involved in a jumping-related incident.
Good. All right. Let's see. Yeah. And Ken, can you actually read the first two sentences of this next one?
Okay. It's time for another major structural leap. We have carefully converted both subject and object into equal participants, but they are still both acting, both are now subject.
And Julieta, can you continue reading?
But what if neither of them was taking action? We can divert the reader's attention to a completely separate entity and recast the entire scenario around it, moving both nouns into passive slots. Both actors are now being acted upon as objects instead of acting as subjects, and the reader's attention is now drawn to a specific quality which had previously been a disposable attribute of one of the nouns. Speed was involved in a jump-related incident with a lazy dog and a brown fox.
Good. Questions?
Oh, no. Okay.
Can you repeat readers?
Readers.
Okay. Is everybody kind of following along?
Mhm.
So now there's like two objects, and what we described as like the quick brown fox has become the subject. So Speed was involved in a jumping related incident with a lazy dog and a brown fox. So yeah, just changing it around a little bit. And let's have Bruno. Can you read the next part?
Having already turned one attribute into the new active subject of the overall sentence, let's similarly recast the other attribute such that the noun is now just a passive recipient of its descriptive qualities. Speed was involved in a jumping-related accident with a lazy dog while Fox was brown.
Okay. Can you repeat attribute?
Attribute,
Yeah, attribute. And
attribute,
good. And then if it's a verb, attribute. An attribute is like something that you have. So something that describes you is an attribute. An attribute is like to kind of give to somebody. Hopefully that makes sense. So attribute is the noun, and attribute is the verb. And then similarly,
similarly,
good. Okay. Maybe just recipient as well. Recipient.
recipient,
Good. And recast. So it's like if you cast something, you're kind of putting it in a mold and making it a shape. So if you're casting something, you're like turning it into a shape, you're defining it in some way. So if you're recasting it, you're redefining it, you're making it into something else.
So can I recast a role?
Yeah, you can recast your whole play if you'd like. So the cast of the play is like the people who act in it, the people who define it. So recasting a play is a little bit different in that like you just change the people who are acting in your play. But yeah, you can also you can recast yourself into a different role or into a different person, to a different life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. And let's have the next one. Ken, can you read the next one?
Okay, we have finally fully arrived at the ultimate in passive voice. The past exonerative tense so named because culpability is impossible when actions no longer exist. For the most extensive erasure of the direct communicative value, the original object can now even be removed entirely. What is exonerative?
So if you exonerate something, you say that it is not guilty.
Oh,
So this is the past exonerative tense. So it's like removing culpability because there are no longer actions, so there can't be any guilt if there's no action.
mhm.
Um, does that make sense?
Maybe, yes.
Okay. And so, okay. And then can you read the sentence? Ken, can you read the
Sorry,
next?
I missed the Ken's part. So, Speed
Oh
was involved in a jumping-related incident while Fox was while with this while Fox was brown.
yeah, so we've removed the lazy dog entirely. Um,
Mhm.
Julieta, can you read this next part?
The St. Louis County Police Department was involved in an officer-involved shooting after officers came under heavy gunfire. We are working as quickly as possible to get details of the incident. Further information will be sent out in a media advisory. A police officer shot a black person.
Yeah, and so that was just it's making fun of the passive voice and like the lack of information in this, the lack of culpability. That's all. So we're just learning not to use the passive voice. Any questions here? All right. Does everybody kind of understand what happened?
Yeah, yeah, kind of. I was suggested in a content writing, maybe active voice is better because sometimes kind of passive voices meaning is who is that when in such kind of things is not clear.
Exactly.
Also, yeah. Also, you know, the politician use this technique a lot. You know, they just
Yeah.
said it is said, you know, but nobody knows who said that.
Yeah. It's to remove guilt too, to remove the sense of like having done something.
Mhm.
People say it's like instead of saying I think,
Yes.
you know, so you don't have
Yeah.
to be like a jerk, you know.
Yeah, and
You know,
Fox News do use this technique a lot, in accordance with Art Fox documentary.
pardon?
Fox News,
Yeah.
news channel. Yeah, they say people say it is said. That's it.
Yep. Yeah, so instead of like being like responsible for what they say, they're just like, no, people say
Yeah.
rumors. Um, yeah. It's like, yeah. Yeah. Anyways, that's all. So it can be used to be confused. What they're talking about is this first sentence. So the St. Louis County Police Department was involved in an officer-involved shooting after officers came under heavy gunfire. It's like Speed was involved in a jumping-related incident while Fox was brown. It's like, what? Something happened. You can use it in the active voice. Um, and yeah, so that's all that happened. It's just satire, I guess. Also, don't use the passive voice. Try not to use the passive voice. I guess we're good. We can do a little bit of reading. We could do another story, I guess, while we're here. Let me get it open. Um, and it'll be a new one too, actually. So it's relatively short. Bruno, do you have any questions about this?
No, no, I think no.
Okay. I don't think so. Instead of I think no, I don't think so.
I don't think so. Okay.
Okay, good. Um, all right. And so this is a really short story. So if you guys do have any questions, make sure you ask them. Julieta, can you read the title and the first paragraph? Maybe the first 4 lines. Let's keep it shorter.
Mother by Grace Perry. One day I was listening to the AM radio. I heard a song. Oh, I longed to see my mother in the doorway. By God, I said, I understand that song. I have often longed to see my mother in the doorway. As a matter of fact, she did stand frequently in various doorways looking at me. She stood one day, just so, at the front door, the darkness of the hallway behind her. It was New Year's Day.
Good. And Bruno, can you finish that paragraph?
She said sadly, if you come home at 4 a.m. when you are 17, what time will you come home when you are 20? She asked this question without humor or meanness. She had begun her worried preparation for death. She wouldn't be present, she thought, when I was 20. So she wondered.
Good. Can you repeat humor?
Humor.
Okay. And questions here. So what's happening in this first part, guys? Anybody?
She listened to a radio song and she remembered her mother when she was 17, and the mother was waiting for her, uh, and it was 4 a.m. and her mother was worried because probably she is going to die and she will not um, there when she will be 20.
Yeah, exactly. Ken, can you read the next part?
Another time, she stood in the doorway of my room. I had just issued a political manifesto acting the family's position on the Soviet Union. She said, "Go to sleep for God's sakes, you damn fool. You and your communist ideas. We saw them already. Papa and me in 1905. We guessed it all."
One more sentence. One more part.
At the door of the kitchen, she said, "You never finish your lunch. You run around senselessly. What will become of you?"
Okay. 1905.
1905.
Attacking.
Attacking.
Good. Okay. And questions here.
Because I had just issued a political manifesto mean?
So, do you know what a political manifesto is?
Yes.
Okay, so she had just like written, yeah, she'd written and handed out this like political statement that attacked the family's position in the Soviet Union. And so we don't really know if she's like issued this manifesto just to the family or if she's like issued it in a broader stance. Maybe like published it in a newspaper or in a school newspaper. We're not really sure. Um, so yeah, that's what's going on.
Mhm.
Okay, and so we're still talking about her mother standing in doorways, you know, like chastising her. Um, and so, Judith, can you read the next part?
Then she died. Naturally, for the rest of my life, I longed to see her, not only in doorways, in a great number of places. The dining room with my aunt, at the window looking up and down the block, in the country garden among zinnias and marigolds, in the living room with my father.
Good. Questions here. Okay. And Bruno, can you read the next part?
They, s- they sat in comfortable leather chairs. They were listening to Mozart. They looked at one another, amazed. It seemed to them that they had just come over on the boat. They had just learned the first English words. It seemed to them that he had just proudly handed in a 100% correct exam to the American's anatomy professor. It seemed as though she just quit the shop for the kitchen.
Okay. Let's look at comfortable.
Comfortable.
Not quite. So 3 syllables, comfortable.
Comfortable.
Look at this and try to ignore the first word. 3 syllables.
Okay.
Comfortable.
Com- comfortable.
Good. Be careful with that. That's a really common mistake. I think Julieta and Ken can both attest to that. Um, and Bruno, can you read professor?
Professor.
Um, and as though
As though.
and quit.
Quit.
Good. Okay. Any questions?
He had just proudly handed.
So if you hand in an exam, it's like you pass it in. So after you've taken an exam, you have to hand it in to the professor so the professor can grade it, and you can leave the class. Does that make sense?
No, say it again.
Okay, so he's taking an exam for anatomy,
Mm-hmm.
and so when you hand in the exam, it's you give it to the professor. After you've finished taking it, like filling in the answers, writing down what you're going to write down, you have to hand in your exam. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so she's talking about a memory of her parents when they were sitting in these comfortable leather chairs, listening to Mozart, and being happy. They're like looking at each other like they're surprised. Um, and then she talks about like maybe why they feel surprised, like they just come over on the boat, like they just learned their first English words, like he just handed in this exam, like she just quit. So she's talking about like the story of their life to some extent. So they came over on the boat from Russia, they had to learn English words, like he had to take an exam to become a doctor, she had to quit working in the shop, um, and start working in the kitchen. Um, So that's kind of like their life roles, and maybe those are all things that they're like looking back at, being surprised at. Um, it also kind of gives you a sense of what happened in their life. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think Ken, can you read the next part?
Okay. Uh, I wish I could see her in the doorway of the living room. She stood there a minute. Then she sat beside him. They owned an expensive record player. They were listening to Bach. Bach
Bach.
in English, yeah. Bach. Okay. She said to him, "Talk to me a little. We don't talk to music to talk so much anymore."
And
Yeah.
Julieta, can you read the next part?
I'm tired, she said.
He
Can't you
said.
see? He said. Can't you see? I saw maybe 30 people today. All sick. All talk, 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 talk. Listen to the music, he said. I believe you once had the perfect pitch. I'm tired, he said. Then she died.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the story. What happened here, Julieta?
Um, it's a a daughter that is is recollecting the memories about her family and about her mother
Yeah, especially her
because
mother.
she died, especially her mother.
Because she died?
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. How does this make you feel, Bruno? Like, is there like a tone to this story? Like, how do you feel for the mother?
Okay, it's a feel sad.
Yeah, maybe it's sad. Um, like, what impression do you get of the mother? You get like a specific impression of the mother, Bruno?
Oh, I don't know, when she was in the doorway waiting for her daughter.
Okay, so like, what do you think about her in the doorway waiting for her daughter, and like her daughter's reaction? I don't know, what feeling do you get about the mother?
She was afraid because her daughter was 17
Mm-hmm.
and she was out until 4 a.m.
Yeah.
a- and she she was waiting her in the doorway.
4 a.m. Okay. Ken, I guess like what do you think about the mother and the father's relationship, like the mother's like end of life? Like what was the end of her life like?
End of life, like,
Yeah, so what was the end of the mother's life like?
mm, because I said, can't you see where maybe so it? He said, maybe you once had perfect peace and died. Maybe not. Maybe I believe you once had a perfect pitch. That means now it doesn't have the perfect pitch.
Yeah, that kind of implies that. So he's implying that she doesn't have perfect pitch anymore. Um, yeah. But like, I guess what was their relationship like? Did they have much of a relationship? Was she happy at the end of her life? Was she sad? Was she worried? Was she happy? Or I don't know. What do you think?
Or maybe sad, because
Yeah.
I think nobody can die kind of happily actually.
Okay, nobody can die happily.
I'm very pessimist about that because I faced my family's, the moment of passing away.
Yeah.
I don't know how actually they are feeling, but from the observation, now I became pessimist about this.
Okay.
I don't know.
Pessimistic.
Pessimistic. But some people explain, a lot of kind of dopamine released from our brain at that moment. So it's very heavenly kind of thing happened. I heard of that one person who almost died. He said he saw the same kind of paradise. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and then he regained actually. So he could talk about that.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Just a lot of
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, the separation is always sad, yeah. Especially those who are very important person. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Giulietta, what do you think the daughter's feeling here? What do you think like this is trying to say? What's she trying to write about?
I think she's feeling melancholy and nostalgia,
Uh-huh.
and perhaps she regrets that she didn't understand at that
Hmm.
moment what was going on.
Yeah. Understand what was going on. Yeah, do you think like there's another way that she would have treated her mother? Like, did you feel like she wants something else for her mother now that like she can't go back
Yes,
and change it? Yeah.
yes, she is. I don't remember the word. Hmm, what was the word she used? Add something, but I don't remember.
Did she use it in this story?
Yes, longed.
Yeah. So she longs to see
She
her
longs
mother.
to see her mother again.
Yeah, to maybe like to change how the woman ended her life. Is at least
Mhm.
what I get. Like I feel like there's a strong sense of like she wishes she talked to her. It's always like the mother, worrying at the daughter, the mother wanting to talk to the father, like maybe exchanging looks and listening to music, but there wasn't
The
like a lot
mother
of intimacy.
was, mm, oh, the mother was aware of her sickness,
Uh-huh.
and so she wanted to be as close as possible to her family.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's good. Um, Perfect. Does anybody have any questions here? All right. Hmm. Well, I guess that's the story. What did you think of the story, Bruno? Does it bring up anything for you? Does it like remind you of anything in your own life, or do you like feel connected to it, or is it just kind of a story?
So I think it's this story. It's about uh, a mother. She's worried about her daughter,
Hmm.
but the daughter don't care about her mother.
Maybe didn't care about her mother.
Didn't care. Okay.
Okay. And does that resonate in your life? Does that sound like kind of familiar? What's it make you think? Like, how did you like the story? Did you dislike it? Does it make sense to you?
Oh yeah, I think it's mother just change the name because it's the same. Uh, she they worried about the children.
Okay. Okay. So the mother's just worried about the children. I guess, yeah, I mean that makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay. I guess what about you, Ken? Did you like the story? Did it feel like it made sense to you? Did you really understand it or not?
Maybe I don't know the follow the story exactly, but it reminds me my relationship, my mother or something like that when I was younger,
Yeah.
maybe usually adolescent days, uh, maybe youngsters want to be independent from their parents, so maybe too much care maybe annoys them, but after that they notice their love. Yeah. It's a kind of usual pattern maybe happening in many families.
Okay.
Probably.
Maybe it's a normal pattern
Yeah. Mhm.
that happens a lot. Okay, yeah. I think that's good. Um, and I guess Julieta, what about you? What do you think?
Hmm.
As far as like liking the story, disliking the story, feeling connected to the story or understanding it, yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. So it's a really short story. Did you think it carries emotional weight? Did it affect you emotionally? Did you like feel like you understood what the characters were feeling or thinking just in the brief period that you read it, or did it kind of fall flat?
It's not flat, not flat. Mm. Yes, it's really intense.
It's really what?
Intense.
Intense. Okay. And so you felt the emotions. Okay. Um, all right. Yeah, I guess as long as there's nothing else. Does anybody else have anything else to say? Any comments or questions or ideas? All right. Well, if not, I've got another class starting right after this. We can move on to that. Thank you for coming in. Hopefully you enjoyed both the readings. I know the